Thanks for listening to this brand new show, Smarter Podcasting. I'm Niall Mackay, the podcast guy and the founder of 7 Million Bikes podcast. I'm a podcast fanatic, stand-up comedian and a teacher. I started my first podcast as a hobby and it's now grown into the top 10% of podcasts worldwide, listened to on every continent except Antarctica, but you never know, and now has over 50,000 downloads. I then combined my two passions of stand-up comedy and podcast and created another podcast called Did That Really Happen?, where I interview comedians from around the world and ask them something that I think every time I hear comedians, did that really happen? This podcast is now featured on the Stand-Up Comedy Podcast Network. During the pandemic, I unfortunately lost my job, and that's when I decided to take my passion full-time and I created 7 Million Bikes podcasts. I now produce, host and edit podcasts in various fields from design thinking, tourism to beer. Whether you're a business or individual, I'll be sharing with you all the lessons and techniques that I've learned along the way. My client Delta MV wanted to create a podcast to reach out to potential clients, and we're getting frustrated and not being able to reach out to them in a meaningful and regular way. After talking with them and understanding exactly what they wanted, I created and hosted a podcast for them so that they were able to get in front of high-value customers and start making sales almost immediately. I also teach aspiring podcasters how to start their own podcast through my course, Get Your Voice Out and Share Your Story. Through this comprehensive course that took me over a year to make, it will take you step by step from a podcast beginner to a podcast expert in just 1 week. My first students immediately went on to create successful podcasts. Dee wanted to share stories of Australians that were locked out of their country and abandoned at the height of the pandemic. But understanding the technical side of things and what was required to start a podcast really held her back. After completing my course, she found the confidence to launch her podcast, Never Forget What They Did. Her first episode was an instant success and went into the top 10% of podcasts worldwide. Podcasting changed my life, and I've seen firsthand the impact it can have on businesses and people, and it's now my mission to help aspiring podcasters join me on this podcasting journey. In this podcast, I'll share with you the tried and tested techniques that I've used to help you create, build, and publish your podcast, along with several stories of success from my own and my clients' podcasts. You'll learn how to build a successful podcast to reach out to your target audience. So if you're interested in podcasting, 7 Million Bikes podcasts and this show, Smarter Podcasting, is here to help you get started and grow your podcast. I'll be publishing episodes every 2 weeks on a range of topics from how to plan your content, tell a story, and even monetize your podcast. You can go to my website, 7millionbikes.com. That's SEVEN million bikes, not bakes, like the transcription service always thinks my Scottish accent is saying. And you'll find all the resources that you need to grow your podcast. On my website, you can also download my free PDF, 7 Ways on How to Monetize Your Podcast, which I'll be going into more detail in a later episode. And if you like this show, don't forget to follow or subscribe from wherever you're listening to so you get notifications for future episodes. My mission is to help you on your podcasting journey, whether you're at the beginning, the middle, or the end. So I hope these episodes can provide lots of interesting information for you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time. My name is Niall Mackay, the podcast guy, and this is Smarter Podcasting.